It's a ticking time bomb. I am extremely concerned that people may begin to perish because of this.
So going to the water will make you sick. It's raw sewage and toxic chemicals.
The smell is a little bit different,
It's
right?
bad. The smell. That's the sewage. And we all got sick, not from being in the water, but from the stench of sewage.
The primary source of pollution to us is the Tijuana River itself.
We share a watershed with Mexico. 3/4 of the Tijuana River watershed are there. 1/4 is in the U.S. Imperial Beach is at the tail end of that watershed.
People aren't coming here as tourists. People are losing their businesses. It's a huge, huge environmental and public health, economic, and national security crisis.
That probably no one's heard of. We are the real border crisis that's happening. It's affecting 750,000 residents of South County, San Diego.
This is where it all starts. The flow from Mexico, it comes in here. This is where we take the trash out.
So this is the first phase, right?
Right.
There could be a lot of things in there, right?
Right, yeah. We've actually had a body come through here once.
So you grew up here?
I lived here for 53 years. I was the mayor of Imperial Beach for 8 years. I've been surfing here since 1977, almost 50 years.
Wow.
So I was a lifeguard here for years, made hundreds of rescues on this beach.
Wow.
Worked on the pier. So yeah, I've spent a lot of time in this water and on this beach.
We are hearing that the beach actually is closed for 3 years. Is that?
Yeah, so due to this sewage crisis and basically the falling apart of sewage treatment infrastructure in Tijuana, we've had over 1,000 days of beach closures in Imperial Beach. But then now all the way up into Coronado,
Wow.
So 12 miles of our beach in California are closed because the government of Mexico, the government of the United States, the government of Baja California, and the government of California can't figure out how to fix a sewer system. We have a $1 billion Navy SEAL training base just up the beach. They're being impacted by sewage.
They're not doing the training?
They can't do their training when the water's like this. They have to go somewhere else. They just built a brand new $1 billion special warfare base. So our most important national security assets are being undermined and threatened by toxic sewage from Mexico.
Which is the Navy SEAL training. In
Yeah, it's just
Coronado,
right. You can see it right up there. So it's just up there. This beach should be filled with people. This is the most important economic asset we have in Southern California. It's a free asset. It should bring us joy. Instead, it's making us sick. People aren't coming here as tourists. People are losing their businesses. It's a huge, huge environmental and public health, economic, and national security crisis.
Can you tell us about the fact people losing their businesses? Is it because people are not coming to the beach?
Yeah, people aren't coming to the beach. Do you see anybody here? If you were in Mission Beach or Santa Monica or Manhattan Beach or La Jolla, the beach is packed in the morning. This is, it's fall. This is prime tourist season. I was the mayor and brought record investment to Imperial Beach over an 8-year period, new hotels, new restaurants, and some of them are closing, and the hotels are losing business, which means our city loses tax revenue, because who wants to come to a beach when it's closed? Why would you spend $300 on a night on a hotel or an Airbnb if you can't go in the water? I wouldn't, and I was the mayor. That's the problem, but it's also a problem because the beach is our main street, our down-home plaza. It's where everybody comes together. So imagine what happens when the place you go to connect with your friends and families and experience the happiest times of your life now becomes the place that makes you sick. The place that you may have gotten married on the beach, or you may have, taken your mom. I get emotional thinking about it because my mom had cancer and she was dying. We take her to the beach, right? And I've talked to so many people like that. They'll walk on the pier. Sorry, it's just, think about 50 years of what we've lost here. And you can't do that anymore because the place you want to connect with your friends and family and then nature is gone. The place where you spent your entire lifetime with your kids and your parents and your friends and every day you have is now a toxic death zone, right? And so it's just awful that that's happening.
Is it a health hazard to be here? Or is it to go into the water?
So going to the water will make you sick. It's raw sewage and toxic chemicals that were banned in the United States back in the 1970s and 60s. So factories are dumping toxic waste into the water that comes in the ocean. but now we know it's in the air. Kim Prather at UC San Diego and Paula Stigler at San Diego State University are doing research on that. They're finding toxic gas in the air, and they're measuring it at the Imperial Beach Pier. They've got a sensor there, right? So we now know that it's having
So
an
in
impact.
that pier, they're measuring it, right?
They're measuring it at the lifeguard station on the beach. Yeah, and then they have sensors along the river channel. So they're measuring, I think it's toxic hydrogen sulfide in the air, right? And so when I was mayor during the pandemic, I had more people complaining about the stench of raw sewage than I did about coronavirus. So think about that. And so I get calls all the time and talk to people who say that it feels like they can't breathe anymore in their homes because when there's a bad sewage spill, the stench of sewage is so bad.
So it's affecting people even in their homes.
Yeah, affecting people in their homes. I had an office on the beach. I run an organization called Wild Coast. We had an office on the beach and we all got sick, not from being in the water, but from the stench of sewage. I had 2 sinus operations and ear surgery because I was getting so sick. So one of the most devastating things I've ever seen is we had sewage released into the National Wildlife Refuge here at the Tijuana Estuary. It's a California Marine Protected Area and a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service wildlife refuge. The oxygen levels dropped to 0 because of the sewage, and all the leopard sharks died. We have leopard sharks here, beautiful animals, friendly, docile, beautiful, all of them, hundreds of leopard sharks died. A state park employee told me just the other day, huge amounts of fish died off in the estuary because of oxygen levels going down to 0 because sewage is going into this, what is a National Wildlife Refuge. So it has a huge impact on animal health. We have blue whales and gray whales, humpback whales, orcas offshore here. This is it's called the Blue Superhighway. Animals come down the California coast and go to Mexico and even the Galapagos. Got guys fishing offshore, lobster being harvested. So all that's being impacted by this toxic sewage.
You were the mayor for many years and you will be working on it.
Yeah.
What was the outcome? Did you talk to
So the irony and the tragedy, contradiction of all this is that we won the battle to fix this problem. So when I was mayor, we filed a lawsuit along with the state of California, the city of Chula Vista, the Port of San Diego, the city of San Diego, and the Surfrider Foundation against the International Boundary and Water Commission, a federal agency, because they were violating the Clean Water Act and we said they needed to clean up. We won that battle. The Justice Department negotiated a settlement and we got President Trump and Nancy Pelosi negotiated the U.S. Free Trade Agreement, the USMCA agreement, and they put $300 million in the budget for the EPA. We did that in 2017 and 2019. We won. But the planning process has now taken over 5 years. So for 5 years, they've been talking about doing something, but they haven't done anything. And meanwhile, the Tijuana sewage system is just basically fallen apart. And Mexico feels comfortable dumping its entire sewer system, 50 to 70 million gallons of sewage every day, into the Tijuana River and letting it go in the ocean. So that's happened really since the pandemic. And so when I was mayor, during the pandemic, we had 50 to 70 million gallons of sewage in the river every day, and no one said anything. And so that's just continued, and Mexico's trying to make improvements. The United States is trying to fix a broken sewer plant, but in the meantime, our communities are suffering. As a small town mayor, you quickly realize that managing your sewer system is the most complicated thing a city does. Every day that the guys in public works are fixing and working on a sewer system as they should. So fixing a sewer system in Tijuana isn't any more complicated than anywhere else in the world. But for some reason, the US and Mexican governments can't figure out how to fix a sewer system and have let it have this devastating impact on communities far and wide in Southern California.
The smell is a little bit different,
it's
right?
Bad. It's smell. It's the sewage. Being in the beach and being in the ocean should be a pristine feeling. You should feel refreshed. And right now we can smell the sewage. The water is a little discolored. Maybe most people would notice it. I can tell. It's just a little off. You can see the inside's a little yellowish, but you can definitely smell it. And it gets worse and worse the further south you go. And when you're next to the Tijuana River, the stench is overwhelming. And there are tens of thousands of people that live in South San Diego, right on the edge of the Tijuana River in the valley, and they're smelling that all the time. And so it's having a huge impact on their physical health, but also their mental health, because they feel like they're almost being held hostage by this toxic smell.